My name is Mitch Benner, and we started this podcast to remove the stigma around sobriety from addiction.
My name is Aaron Nelson. Through our stories and the stories of our guests, we hope to help you find a new path. All right, we are back, everyone. Thank you so much for coming back and giving a listen. Today, we have the amazing Tia Lee with us, which is really cool. From friends of the show, we got introduced to Tia. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
As always, friends, let's build up these numbers. If you're liking what you're hearing and you've liked previous episodes, please do us a favor and hit that subscribe button, whether you're on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Everything helps because you've heard this before, but we want to get some funds back into this so we can turn around and help you. That's the whole mission behind this, is give awesome advice for you or someone else that you know that's struggling, but also give us the ability to give back to our community in lots of different ways. So yeah, like us, follow us. And as always, we want feedback. Please reach out to us. Tell us what we're doing good. Tell us what's horrible. Tell us what we want to keep doing, what not, all that good stuff, because we are listening and we want to improve for you. And so we got Mitch Benner here as always.
Great introduction, man. That was awesome.
Hey, thanks.
I'm feeling good right now.
Yeah, let's pump those numbers. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go, man. Come on, people.
Well, Tia, but yeah, it's so awesome that you're here. I know we recently met, all thanks to Morgan and Irene Merriman. Episodes in the past, look them up. They're there.
I'll say the first 10.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the first 10.
But yeah, so you're obviously been amazing. You've been talking about how you've been listening, so we appreciate you. But yeah, let's hear your story. Start from wherever you want to, go as deep or as brief as you want, and then we'll get into the pillars.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, hello, I'm Tia. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Tia.
Is that what you're supposed to say?
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, you always say like
I've never done a podcast. I don't know what I'm doing.
Hey, I'm Mitch, I'm an alcoholic. And in our group, they'd always be like, "Hey, Mitch." Yeah, but there's like 90 dudes in there, so it was like it goes super fast. But
pretty much. Okay, so I'm Tia. I was born and raised in Florida. Let's see. I'm from a military family, and I was born in Jacksonville, and my dad was deployed, and so it was mostly my mom raising me, and then we got stationed in Rhode Island, and then Key West. I'm just doing a brief synopsis.
Yeah.
And it wasn't exactly a healthy upbringing. One of my first memories ever was my brother and I imitating an argument between my parents, where I was acting like my mom and my brother was acting like my dad, and we were yelling at each other like my parents were yelling at each other. So if that kind of puts it in perspective, my parents are great, but they were not compatible. They were not in a healthy marriage. It was one of those, he's in the military, falls in love, proposes after, I don't know, less than 6 months, they get married. And, I look at that and I just can't relate. So anyways, they moved to Pensacola, Florida. So Pensacola is like, we call it LA, Lower Alabama. It's real close to the Alabama state lines, that like the panhandle of Florida, real trashy, nice town. Yeah, that's where I'm from.
Right on.
Trashy, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that where they launch rockets from?
No, but Blue Angels are
Okay,
Pensacola.
Blue Angels.
Yeah.
Nice.
So military town, which was, interesting. And we moved there, I think, when I was about 4. And then my dad was downsized from the military. Something in the 90s happened. So it was like 1994. My parents were like, we liked Pensacola. So they moved there to raise my brother and I. Growing up, when I was kind of a weird kid, I had this weird, I love that book, by the way. Sorry. The ADHD. It's really bad. I'm going to try to stay on track. So I was a weird kid. I had a weird obsession with umbrellas. There's some girls that are obsessed with like fairies and princesses and shit. Not me.
You just went up like 10 notches in my book. I fucking love that.
I was that weird kid. I was like, give me an umbrella. And so there's this thing called Supper Church down south. I don't really know if they do it here, but it's like Wednesday nights where they do dinner and shit. And it's like Sunday school, but on a Wednesday night.
Yeah,
and there was a night that it was storming really, really bad. And of course I was like, perfect opportunity to use my umbrella, right? I'm 5 years old, pigtails and all. And my mom said, we're not bringing the umbrella. It's lightning as shit outside, And I was like pitching a fit, and then she wouldn't let me take it. In hindsight, it was a really good idea that she didn't, because as I was running into the church, I was actually hit by lightning.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious. So if you got a resentment against religion, fucking bet, okay? Like anybody
Dude.
listening. So that was interesting. So I was kind of knocked out. Like my hair stood up. It
Yeah.
tasted like kind of metal in my mouth. There was like a weird smell, I guess like an ozone smell. And I was just knocked out.
What the
And then I come to, and it's just like a circle of people, and they're like, Jesus saved her, and all this shit. It was crazy.
Dude,
And I'm
that's insane.
5. So the running joke is God tried to smite her, you know, that kind of thing. You know, that kind of.
I just gotta ask.
Sure.
Like, was there any like, were you directly hit?
My mom saw it hit me. I was knocked out.
That's
So-
fucking unbelievable.
It's crazy. Do you still
At
know
5
the
years-
smell and taste and everything? Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I
Static freaks me out.
Dude,
It's
that is
the whole
insane.
thing.
Was there any like long-term effects from it?
And
you
I'm
think?
sure it's got to do with my learning disability for sure, which I do have a learning disability. I'm fine, but like it
Yeah.
takes me a while to get something. So
Well, I mean,
Pretty
I'm
sure
the
that
same- I'm
contributed.
kind of the same way too, and I've never been struck by lightning. But dude, that is insane at 5 years old. Too.
yeah, so gonna
Wow.
start this story with a bang, right?
Get there.
Anyways, so the learning disability was really rough in school. They improperly medicated me in the 90s with Concerta, which didn't have a good effect on my mental health, but it made me focus more in school. But it was not good for my mental health. But we kept going to that church. So this church was called Summit Park United Methodist Church. So this is the church I was hit by lightning outside of. And it got crazy in the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know why my mom kept taking us to this church. She wasn't a big fan of commutes, and the church was right up the street from the house. So I guess that's why we
Maybe
stayed.
that was it. Yeah.
But there was this pastor there that it got weird. He was like blowing like a horn, like a shell horn, not well in the sermons. People were like falling on the floor and
Yeah.
speaking in tongues. It was like an Assembly of God vibe, which I don't know if you've been to one of those churches.
I grew up in a church like that.
Okay. Yeah. So when you're a little kid, this is like kind of scary.
I can relate to this on a level that I didn't think that anybody else could relate to me on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
for
it gets
sure.
worse.
It's like a cult.
There was a day that he had blood on his hands during the service. And I'm like 7. And then he brought a gun and pointed it at the congregation. This guy was nuts. So religious trauma, bet. Anybody that's got it, that's like, screw God, bet. Anyways, so that's my experience with religion very early. So I was like, whoa. And that's all I knew. And this is not a Methodist church vibe. This is Assembly of God vibes. Like, it's weird. My mom called him a false prophet.
Was it a denominational thing?
It was supposed to be a Methodist church, but he just came in and made it weird. Somebody almost fell on me. It was the whole thing.
Dude, I remember that like it was yesterday, man. I remember this one time in a service, and it was this person that had come from somewhere else, and she was like anointed, you know. And so she was going around this like dude, it had to have been hundreds of people, and would just touch them and they would all fall down. Like, and it was obviously a show. You know, and I'm standing up there because I had warts on my foot, and my mom was like, we can pray over this and like get healing. And the weird thing is I don't have warts anymore, and I didn't after that. But dude, I remember her touching me, and I just stood there, and there was hundreds of people laying on the ground, and finally she just like hit me in the forehead, like so hard that I like fell backwards. It was weird, dude. Like. So I can relate to that on a level that I feel like not a lot of people can.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so I'm new to this, but in 2 minutes or less, what's the difference between like Baptist, Methodist, I understand Catholic?
It's the doctrine, right? It's so like Lutheran, Methodist, there's different doctrines to each one of them, right? So there's different rules that you have to follow, different things that you have to do. The Amish, you know,
Like you have to do
Mennonite,
things to just
Yeah.
follow Jesus? Weird.
they
Why?
have different doctrines. They have different like check boxes that you have to check, right? So non-denominational is really supposed to be focusing on your relationship with Christ, period. Like that's it. Like you and Christ have a relationship. You hear from God. Like it's kind of what you're doing right now. Like the church you go to in Greeley is non-denominational.
Yeah.
So, but Lutheran and all of that stuff is very, very more, it's much more fire and brimstone, right? Like if you do this one thing, then like you're going to hell, right? Like, or you like the Amish, dude, no electricity. You know what I mean? And then you get Mennonite, which is very much it's a pull from the Amish, but it's like they allow electricity. You can have cars, but it's still very, very, very legalistic.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Is that would you agree with that or
Something like that. Yeah.
I mean, that's the best way to just. I'm not a theologian by any means, so that would be the best way I can describe it.
No, it just sounds just not fun.
I was
Not
also an
really.
acolyte in that church too. So
What's that?
that's the whole thing. I was an acolyte too at that church where I had to like bring the fire in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, we weren't like that. Like, it's a lot more ceremonial, you know. But anyways, so it's just it's there's different. It's kind of more.
I'll just
strict.
ask ChatGPT.
That's a good idea.
That is a good idea. Okay, so anyways, back to childhood stuff. My dad drank a lot. Now the man that raised me is not the same man that I know now as my dad. I just want to be clear about that. He was unhappy, right? And my mom and my dad, they're great people, but they were not great together.
Are they still together?
No.
Okay.
No, thank God. No. And that'll be later in the story. My mom, she would like make my clothes and stuff. I was a weird kid, you know? And, you know, she went from like living with my grandpa and grandma to like being married to my dad, you know? So it was like very, I don't know.
Did they get married pretty young?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like 25, I think.
Okay.
Which I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
can you imagine? Anyway, I also dealt with something, I would call them premonitions, where I would have a weird feeling about something and something would happen. Specifically, we'll jump to when I was 15. I had a best friend. Her name was Kelly. And I had introduced her to a guy online named Andrew. So they were two of my closest people because I didn't exactly fit in, but we don't need to get into all that. It's not that relevant. And Kelly and I were going to go take a road trip to meet up with Andrew. We had this whole plan. We were going to skip school. We were going to block the school from calling our houses and stuff. And the day before, I had a bad feeling in my gut. I was like, there's something wrong. We can't do this trip. Now, my premonitions are not specific, but this day I was like, I already know what it's about because we're about to take this trip. She had just gotten her license like 2 months prior. And I was like, girl, I can't go. We can't do this. And she goes, well, I'm going anyway to pick him up. So she drove from Pensacola, Florida to Melbourne, Florida, which is like South Florida, to pick him up and bring him back. So March 3rd is when I had the premonition and I decided to not go. March 4th, she went. And all day at school, I was a mess. And there's people that witnessed this where I was like, something bad's going to happen. Something bad's going to happen. And I was a mess. Later that night, I'm getting fucking goosebumps. She wasn't answering the phone, right? And she was supposed to be back soon. I mean, she was trying to drive like 16 hours in one day,
Yeah.
2 months with a license. I mean, crazy. I called her probably like 20 times and the highway patrol picked up and they both died in a freak accident.
Are you fucking serious?
I'm dead serious. So that survivor's guilt really fueled me needing to numb out for sure.
Yeah. So can I ask you a question about that? Have you had other ones?
Yeah.
Really? Have
Yeah.
they always been accurate?
They are accurate. I've had issues where I'm like, is this anxiety or is this a premonition?
Well, and my first thought is like, it's not like Final Destination, right? Where you're seeing exactly what's going to happen, but you just have this overwhelming sense of like,
Impending doom.
yeah.
And I was a little mad at God for these premonitions because she's not the first one where somebody died. And then I was full of anxiety all the time because I didn't know, you know, it was like, is this a premonition or is this anxiety? You know? So that was my first premonition where like somebody died. I'd have other premonitions where I would see a doppelganger of somebody at like the military commissary, right? And then I would see them later that day, like weird stuff like that. But the impending doom has ended with death. And it's like, it hits you like a ton of bricks where you don't know who it's about. Or
Dude, that's
that day I
crazy.
did, but like, yeah. And that's scary because, you know, it's a gift from God, right? But like, I need specifics. How can I stop this bad thing from happening? So that also fueled my like resentment against like religion and stuff.
That's weird.
That's crazy.
Every time I got fired, I woke up knowing I was getting fired that day.
Yeah, that's also because you're drinking all the booze.
Oh, for sure. But it's like you woke up and it's like, holy shit, today's the day. Because they don't like warn you. Or I mean, of course they got warned, but it's like You know what I mean? You just woke up and like I went in the office and like the area managers that are never there are in the office and they're like with your last check. So it's nothing like that. But
I was gonna say, I mean, in that, like, I don't know, man, that's crazy because I've known other people that have the same thing. You know, they've been like, whether it was a God thing or whatever, like, I don't know, but that's wild.
I also used to see weird shit when I was a kid that I couldn't really explain. My mom also used to see weird shit and have premonitions, so I guess it's like a hereditary thing. I haven't really seen anything weird.
Well, I was
as an
gonna
adult,
ask
but yeah.
not to like. Was this all after you got struck by lightning?
The seeing stuff was before.
Was before?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then you said your mom had it too, so it's
right.
like
That is a good question.
yeah, because that's what I was like. Interesting.
Happens all the time in comic books.
It's gotta be it's gotta be true. So that was my first brush with death. You know, seeing your best friend at 15 years old,
Yeah.
like in a casket. I don't know how they put her back together. She went through the windshield with a seatbelt on. Like it was nuts.
Oh,
That's
man.
fucking crazy, man.
So, anyways, after that, I was like, I'm going to be straight edge. I'm going to put X's on my hands. No sex, no drugs, no alcohol. And that's my personality. I don't know why I did that, but it was pretty short lived. I started dating this guy in high school, and he had this car with these dragon stickers on it. We called it the Dragon Wagon. And he was like the hottest guy in school, right? And he was much older than I was. I was like, I think I was like 17, and he wound up being 22 when we actually dated. But when he was in high school, he was the hot guy,
Yeah.
right? So I was like, I got the hot guy,
Yeah.
right? And I had my first like real drink, New Year's Eve, 2007, with his stepmom. Her name's Vita, R.I.P. She's passed away. She gave me Goldschlager,
Nice.
which has a
That's
little
a
gold.
Yeah, it's got
Flakes in
flakes
it.
of gold in it.
Yeah.
Is it real gold? Is it really?
Probably. I don't know.
How is
I
that?
drink it all the time.
How is that not? Is it really real gold?
You're shitting gold, man.
Yeah, dude.
It's fucking crazy. Right.
It's another one of those that doesn't really stink up your breath, though. That and Rumple, man.
Yeah, I remember going to X Games and just getting hammered on that.
So the Goldschlager night, that was New Year's Eve, 2007. I was staying with my boyfriend that night, but I told my mom I was staying elsewhere. You know, the
Classic.
typical.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you know, this guy was 22. He could buy alcohol, so it was great. And that next day, New Year's Day, this was my senior year of high school, I get a call from my mom, and she says, you need to come home. Your dad is having an affair. So it was like a movie, right? Where she's waiting in the living room and he sneaks back in and she turns the light on and it's like,
Oh.
where you been? And that, you know, it was a hard thing for my family. At the end of the day, him and my mom should have divorced a long time ago. I know that was a plan to get divorced. I'm not saying what he did was right, because it wasn't, and it's still a problem. Like with my mom and how she deals with it, and it sucks. But something good that came out of that is my mom raised me to be really independent and not rely on a man for money. So, you know, having that in my head, because she wasn't working, you know, and then she's like, shit, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Like, I just got betrayed, you know, and it's still hard for her. I'm trying to help her, you know, not ruminate, but that's her journey. And that happened so long ago. My dad is doing a lot better now. It was World War III every night in that house. And it was, you know, they're talking about World War III. I was like, well, I grew up with that.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and I love them. They're great, just not great together. And
Yeah.
that's just getting married young, having kids, and then you feel stuck until the kids move out. But I guess my dad couldn't wait. But I love him. I love my stepmom. I love my mom. You know,
How old were you when that happened?
I was 17. Yeah. Anyways, my senior year, I stopped the straight edge shit, right? I get adopted by a cool kid. He starts taking me to high school parties. I don't know if you guys remember Lex and Terry in the mornings. Back in like the 90s, they used to have Drunk Bitch Friday. And a girl would be drunk at 5 a.m. on this radio show. So that was my name at these parties, was Drunk Bitch. They'd be like, drunk bitch. So I was that girl. And it was always, where's the party at? Where's the party at? I remember there was one time a party got raided and the cops showed up and I was like hiding in a bathtub while the cops were like searching the house, you know. That was fun. I graduated high school in 2008 and we would do party balls, the Bud Light party balls on the river and stuff like that. And it was just a summer of debauchery, right? I tried to do the college thing, but I had lost my health care, so I couldn't get any more Concerta, which really contributed to bad mental health stuff that I don't need to really get into. So I could not focus in college. I didn't even know what I wanted to do when I grew up. So I dropped out because I'm a winner. And I got my first sales job ripping off the military.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tapping into that black budget.
I was selling laptops, and we would like take the payments through an allotment where it comes out of their check before they get their check, and it builds their credit. I found out later it was all bullshit. Wound up quitting that, but I worked for three different one of those. I would just move to other retail jobs in our local mall in my hometown, and I was like working at Finish Line selling shoes, and then I worked at Buckle, and just like I worked everywhere. I was all over that mall. They called me the mall queen, right? And then partying after work with all the mall people, very incestuous community. And then I started working at Journeys, and that's when I met a guy, we'll call him Chris One. There's 3 Chris's in my story. So Chris One, and he was my boss.
I worked at Journeys too.
Yeah, nice. Did you also screw your boss?
No, he was a dude, but I did screw him. I did have sex with one of the girls that worked there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So started dating my boss. So that was fun. So I wound up quitting Journeys, going to other sales jobs. And then I moved in with Chris One pretty early. It was one of those situations where it wasn't my idea and I didn't exactly want to do it, but he said, well, we got to do it or we're breaking up. Now he was like 8 years older than me, which looking back, I'm like, gross. Sorry, Chris One, if you're listening, that's weird. Anyways, then I started getting into cell phone sales. So I start working at Best Buy Mobile, and then I start working at this Verizon dealer called Cellular Sales of Knoxville Incorporated. That's what they're called. It's third party. And that's when it got real fun. It was like Wolf of Wall Street vibes, like a party all the time, drinking all the time at work.
Were your drugs getting involved in it too?
A little bit, little Molly and stuff here and there. They'd have holiday parties and we'd all get crazy, right? And I wound up getting offered to travel and open Verizon stores. I was 22 years old and I was very like in my hometown, right? And I was like, this is the chance to like leave Pensacola because people get stuck and they have kids and like, fuck that. I didn't want to do that. Yeah. So I go to Mississippi to do some work, come back after a month, and I tell Chris One, I don't want kids. I don't want to get married. And so he was like, I'm done. And I was like, okay, bye. Sorry if you're listening. And I move on pretty much the same day to Chris 2. Chris 2 was in New Orleans. I was in Mississippi, but we were only a couple hours away from each other. And he was also traveling. So I would go visit him in New Orleans before going back to Mississippi. When I would like go to Florida, it was a whole thing. So Chris 2 and I were like this. And we worked together just as employees for couple years, and then we both somehow wind up in New Orleans. We both moved to New Orleans, and I loved it there. It was so fun, right? And then he gets promoted to be a manager. So here I am dating my manager again.
Yeah.
It's like these weird patterns. So the promotion offer was he's got to move to Lafayette, Louisiana. Well, they know that we're buy one, get one free. So they move us both to Lafayette, Louisiana from New Orleans. This was in 2013. And we start running the Verizon stores over there. So we were like the dream team, the dynamic duo, if you will. A lot of drinking. This guy made me look like a Mormon. Really? Chris 2 he tried to be a functioning alcoholic, but I had to go to the liquor store and get his alcohol so he could, get rid of the shakes just to get out of bed. And I was like, you're an alcoholic. I'm good. As I'm like chugging a bottle of wine a night, and it starts off small. It's a progressive thing. You start off like, we had this idea like, I only had one drink because it's in the same glass. That's like how we
only got drunk once, but I was drunk for 20 years.
Right. So there was a part where we were in corporate housing. I should touch on this with this guy named Matt, who was also a really bad alcoholic. When we would talk about VDK, which is vodka, be like, yeah, VDK all day. And I remember at 5 a.m. I would hear ice hitting the glass when Matt would like get his VDK drink, like to get rid of the shakes, because we all lived in that corporate apartment. So it was just, I was surrounded by alcohol with these guys, Chris and Matt. So let's see. There was also a time, I knew I was going to get off track.
You're good. You're doing great.
I should have mentioned this at the beginning of my story. There is stuff about suicide in here. I had a friend named Topher that I had a weird feeling about a post that he made.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a premonition, might have been. And I went to his house and he had a gun to his head. And it was a bad situation. Like he was on Xanax and drunk, and I had to talk him down. Could have been shot. It was really scary. And he told me I saved his life. And this is right before I went to like the New Orleans and all that. So I'm kind of out of order here. But 6 months later, he did it anyway. So there's a lot of my story about abandonment issues of stuff like that. So that was so it started with Kelly, and then you have Topher, and then it's like, I could have saved his life. I have the savior complex, which, helped with the drinking problem. Anyway, so back to where I was. There was one time I got like roofied at a bar called the Mallard in Mississippi. I felt it coming on. I went in my car. I apparently called Chris 1 multiple times that night and said I got roofied while I was dating Chris 2. Right. I don't remember any of that. So that was really bad. And then I was like, I think I'm done with hard liquor. So I'm just going to switch to like beer and wine, because if I get mixed drinks, I don't know what I'm going to get. Yeah. So we're just going to beer and wine, and it's fine. So let's see. So I did Molly a few times at some parties with the staff, the Verizon staff, the regional directors, all that stuff. So that was a lot of fun. So we're going to I'm going to fast forward it a little bit, and we're going to go to like how I got to Colorado. Chris 2 and I were killing it in Louisiana. We had our thing, and like we would do these chants in the car. We'd be like, nobody's leaving without a phone or a MiFi or a tablet. And we would chant that in the car on the way to work. Like we're working at fucking Verizon, right? Nobody leaves without a phone. Like we were hustling, right? And it was like, you need it, you're going to get it. I don't care if you really need it, but I'm going to say you need it. So my morals were a little skewed. I would like do little things to beef up my numbers. Like I would put somebody's insurance on like my credit card and then like cancel it, so it wouldn't keep charging me so I could get the numbers right. Like a little shady. And they were catching on, the people at Verizon. And this was in 2015 where the oil market crashed, and that trickled down in Lafayette, Louisiana happened quick. Yeah. So next thing you know, I'm dissolving business accounts that I helped start. I mean, it was bad. I was like, the money was gone. It was dried up. Yeah. And this was in like 6 months. Chris 2 had a friend that lived in Fort Collins, and I was really into HGTV. That girl, rehab addict, the blonde girl with the hammer. I was like, I'm going to be just like her, And so his friend, who comes from money, which Chris 2 and I do not come from money. So this guy, trust fund kid, he was like, I'm in Fort Collins. I got a place for you guys to stay. Just come out here and we'll all flip houses. And we were like, let's go, crazy. So I'm 25 years old, moving across the country with Chris 2. Like I'm in love. It's like a whole thing. And we're like, Colorado, right? So I had to get a job, right, while they were getting the business up and running. So I start working at AT&T cell phones.
And do what you know, right?
Corporate AT&T, mind you, which was not the vibe for me. I'm not supposed to work at big corporations because there were too many fucking rules. I'm like, why are you following me when I'm going out to smoke a cigarette? Like, leave me alone. One time, a customer smelled alcohol on me and told my manager. And then they tried to have an intervention with me. And I was like, since when can I not have like 4 beers on my lunch break? Like, this is fucked up. Like, how do you want to make it through the day? My numbers are better when I'm like drunk, like whatever, So the intervention did not work, which is fine. I'd be at the car bar. I call it the car bar, on your little breaks, chugging, stuff like that. I should also say that I didn't have a life outside of Chris 2. It was Chris 2 and work. I didn't have any friends. I had nothing. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn later. There were, so my drinking kind of escalated more so in Colorado than Louisiana, which is crazy because Louisiana, it's much less frowned upon because you can get a daiquiri on your way home from work in Louisiana. But Colorado, I was miserable at AT. The money wasn't coming in from the house flipping. Chris 2 and I's bills aren't getting paid. His trust fund kids just like, oh, my dad decided to quit buying houses. And I'm like, okay, well, we don't have a rich mommy and daddy. And I did have a big resentment against trust fund kids for a long time. I've had to work through that. So it got bad. There was one time where I tried to fight 4 frat guys outside of the Hody. I was mixing Angry Orchard and Fireball, and that
Not a good
brought out
combination.
some crazy version of me. I also had the nickname Pickles because I was pickled all the time, drunk.
Drunk, yeah.
So everybody was calling me Pickles at this time. So I tried to fight 4 frat guys, and then Chris 2 gets involved, and then like I was like, they weren't gonna hit me, but they'll hit you, bro. Like you should have just left me alone. But I remember that so specifically because the next morning was the first time I had the shakes. And that was, I think I was 26. That was the first time ever. And I think that is when I was officially pickled. There was no going back. There's no going back to like being a normal person, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For me, at least. I don't know about other people, but when I'm having DTs, that said a lot. Chris 2 and I break up. It's a disaster because we're both fucked. Like we have no money. He wound up having to file a bankruptcy, all this stuff. And it just, the whole relationship exploded. It was a lot of fighting, a lot of drinking, a lot of just, it was a disaster.
Yeah.
I took the cat. He took the dog. The dog was a wiener beagle.
Nice.
His name's Charlie Day. He still lives today. And I still have the cat. And it was bad. It was so bad for me because I had nothing, no one, no money. I was in a state where I didn't really know a lot of people besides people I worked with at AT&T. And we moved here with his friends. And that's when I discovered I need a life outside of my romantic relationships. So what did I do? I start going to the bars, start making friends. And that's when I really escalated. The last 3 years of my drinking was a 3-year buzz. I did have another premonition about, it was September of 2017. Had a really bad feeling, didn't know who it was about. I'm like calling people. I'm like, what are you doing tonight? What are you doing tonight? Don't go anywhere. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, right? Next morning, I get a phone call. My cousin dies in a freak accident. Fiery car accident, wasn't even driving. So that really like spiraled me out even more. At that time, I was working at Constant Contact because I was like, I'm too good for cell phone sales. Now I do marketing.
I was gonna say, you might know my brother. He went there.
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
his name?
Taylor Benner. He was more like computer. I think, well, what's he doing there?
Support.
Probably support, yeah.
Yeah, I was on the sales side.
Yeah.
Where it was like people were chugging alcohol at the beginning of the shift. Like I had my Angry Orchard. I drank Angry Orchard because I knew how many Angry Orchards it took until I couldn't drive well anymore. I knew the exact percentage, the alcohol content. So that was my thing. And it didn't have too much of a smell. It wasn't too carbonated, so I could chug it. So that was the science because that's what normal people do, not
Right.
alcoholic. So, all right.
That's, like, I
Oh,
totally
dude.
get that, dude. Mine was 5 whiskey shooters. in the
Yeah.
morning. And I could do 5 of them, and it would set me perfect for the day,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, leaving old Chicago, we had angry. Well, it was not Angry Orchard, but
Johnny Appleseed.
Woodchuck, just the
Woodchuck,
same
yeah, yeah.
thing. But we had it on tap, and so like when I'm leaving work, I could basically I drank like 6 of them in a row right before I went home.
A lot of sugar. A lot of sugar. So I was out every night, was fighting with roommates, all this stuff. I wind up meeting Chris 3. So we have Chris 1, Chris 2, and Chris 3. I meet Chris 3, and he is Captain Sabaho. He really had his shit together. He was an oil field guy, and I guess he wanted to save me. I don't know, because I was a mess.
Yeah.
First date was at Melting Pot. Red flag. They take you to Melting Pot. It's probably a love bomb. I don't know. Just kidding. He's not a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. I'm not going to talk shit. So he meets me, and I am in the tail ends of my drinking. Just one thing after another is happening. I'm asked to leave the house I live in. And like I said, I have no money, no savings. I was an Uber driver as well, a drunk one. I was drinking while Ubering people around.
Awesome.
So if you have
Dude,
shame
that's-
about you drinking, fucking bet. So anyway, Captain Sabaho, Chris 3, he's at my house, and I get served with a judgment for a $30,000 personal loan that I got to pay off a credit card that I also did not pay. So I had to file a bankruptcy. This was February of 2018. Oh, he lends me some money for the bankruptcy. I pay him back in 2 weeks, and I pay the judges, and that's humbling. You know, I'm 28 years old, and I'm like, oh, that actually just fell off this year.
Good for
Anyway,
you.
took a while, but yes. So there's a judgment. I was in a no-fault accident, and it was one of those accidents where I had a bunch of beer cans in the car, and I was like, I'm not going down for this because it's their fault. So I'm like hiding it in a snowbank before the cops show up because you're not going to give me a Dewey when I didn't do anything. The fact that I never got a Dewey is insane, but I never crashed any cars or hurt anybody, thankfully.
Yeah.
But, I never had to get in trouble. I need to, say that out loud. I didn't have to get in legal trouble to get right.
Good for you.
The bankruptcy happens. I'm asked to move out, and then Constant Contact is like, we'll pay you $5,000 if you leave because you're not doing well. And I was like, all right, I ain't got no job. I ain't got shit to do. So I go on my last bender. So this is all within a month of each other, essentially. I go on my last bender, FOCO MX,
Yep.
right? And, where they have all the bands and shit. I don't remember much. I was more of a brownout, but this weekend in particular was pretty much
Straight up
blackout. The last thing I remember is my friends chasing me down and putting me in an Uber. I had a Euro. I remember that. And then I get home, and then it's like I flash forward to me like trying to do the dishes because I was a productive drunk. And I'm just like, with dishes, break a couple glasses here and there. And then I go and I grab my laundry. It's 2 a.m. And I go downstairs to the basement I'm living in, and I eat shit. And I fall down the flight of stairs. And next day I couldn't really walk, which was inconvenient because I had one Angry Orchard. I was like, that's not going to work. So I poured it out and I said, I guess this is day one.
Really?
Yes. And that sucked. I didn't have health care, so I couldn't go to rehab, right? Was shaking uncontrollably. I'm glad I didn't have a seizure. I lasted probably, 24 hours before I was like, okay, I'm ready to go to the liquor store. But something in my gut told me to call my friend that I knew was sober. We're going to call him Paul. So I called Paul and I said, I'm already outside the liquor store. What do I do? And this was the same liquor store that I would show up at 8 a.m., to like get my fix for work for the car bar. Right. And he said, meet me at this super secret coffee club. And I was like, okay. And it's one of those 12-steppy anonymous things.
Yeah.
If you know, you know. Everybody probably knows, but that's what I'm going to call it. So I go to the super secret coffee club meeting. We'll just call it a meeting. And I don't really remember what it was about, but it was about the politics, this 12-step shit, which is not a good first meeting to go to when you have the shakes and you can't even hold a cup of coffee. But somebody, one of the most unlikely of people, came up to me and said, you never have to feel like this again. And it wasn't, you don't have to drink again, because that's all I wanted to do. It was, you don't have to feel like this again.
Yeah.
And that was enough for me to not drink that day. So I have not had a drink since April 29th, 2018.
That's
like
fucking
when I
awesome,
was
man.
done, but it wasn't easy. Like, I mean, if you want to talk about like the craziness that's happened that I didn't drink, I mean, it's insane. I think about it and I'm like, how? Because I had no stability. Chris 3 wound up leaving me for a little bit because he was like, you're too much. Like, he couldn't even save this hoe. It was so bad. Anyway, I had to move 4 times in my first year of sobriety. That sucked. Like, no stability. I was trying to find jobs, right? Because all I did was sales. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I had no idea. And so I'm like trying these different call centers. One of them, I called this lady that was mentoring me, and I was like, the liquor store is next door to this place. Give me one good reason to not go drink. She goes, you need to leave that job. Yeah. And it was a scammy job where they were like spoofing phone numbers and spamming people. It was awful. It was bad. So I did a lot of like gig work, a lot of Uber driving, door dashing. And then I was asking people if I could, do some side work for them, like on Facebook. Yeah. And I had a friend and he needed help moving, packing stuff up. So I start helping him pack up his kitchen, and I look in his cabinets and they're gross. So I start wiping them down as I'm packing up his stuff. And he goes, no. I got a cleaning service for that. Like, you don't need to do it. I'm like, but I'm crazy. I'm a manicky person. I love to like wipe shit down. It's just like how I kind of operate. It's how I've always operated. I've always liked to do that. I've gotten in trouble with jobs for doing that because I'm not being a shark to customers because I want it all to look good, right? So I'm wiping off his cabinets, right? And he's like, I have a cleaning company for that. And then he was like, actually, wonder if they're hiring. So he reaches out to the cleaning company, and they're not hiring at the moment. So I was like, damn, I got to stay with gig work, right? But then I start working through the 12 steps, right? So we have a specific step called step 3, right? We're giving our lives over to a power greater than ourselves. Now, if you remember, I have a little bit of religion trauma, but I always knew there was something greater than myself.
That's actually what I wanted to ask you too, because I was very similar in that. Like, no matter where I was at in my life, drugs, alcohol, whatever, I always believed in God, And so was that similar for you?
I knew there was something, but I wasn't quite sure what it was. But I found out quick. So my friend Paul that took me to that meeting, my first meeting, he was tired of my shit. I was a walking victim. Everything was happening to me. Everything was chaotic. I had to move again. I didn't have any money, all this shit. And I was like, how am I going to afford a deposit? What am I going to do? And he sat me down. He was like, I'm tired of your shit. Why don't you go help somebody or do something? I was sensitive, like real sensitive, early sobriety sensitive, like more sensitive than like a woke kid in Boulder sensitive. I mean,
that's a good reference.
I mean, it was bad. So I was very upset. My family, they're all in Florida. I don't really have anybody out here besides like Paul and like this new community that I don't know that well. So I decided I was done. I left my cat's food out so my roommates would know what she ate. I cleaned everything up and I got in my car and I was going to drive to Horsetooth and go to, I think it's called Suicide Rock or something. Yeah. And I was going to drive off, right? So I go to do that. That's where I meet God.
It's funny how he shows up in those moments, isn't it?
So a deer runs in front of my car. So I'm like driving to go and a deer runs in front of my car. I slam on the brakes and it's just quiet. And I go, is that fucking God? Is that God? The fuck? And I was like, I guess I'm fucking not doing this today. So I go home. The next day, I'm like, I'm going to be different. I'm going to do something. I'm going to go help somebody. So I decide I'm going to go towards Estes Park, Rocky Mountain National Park. I have a full tank of gas. That's about it, right? And I find a guy. He's a homeless guy, right? Or not a homeless guy. I'm sorry. He was a walking traveler from Germany, and he needed to get to the other side of Rocky Mountain to like Grand Lake or something. And I was like, I ain't got shit to do. I was an Uber driver. I'm used to picking up strangers. And the whole time through the canyon, through the park, we're talking about God and spirituality. And like, this is a random stranger. I don't even know his name. And I drop him off in Grand Lake. And I was like, okay, God, I'm going to surrender to you, right? Whatever the fuck you are. Because I'm pissed. I'm like, you give me like premonitions. I don't know what they mean. And like, you hit me with lightning and like you give me this church trauma and like, and now you want to show up when I'm ready to go. Yeah. I'm like, typical, So I start driving around. I'm looking for lakes. I'm a water girl, not a water sign, but a water girl. I'm from Florida. I love water. Yeah. So I'm looking for a lake to jump into. I somehow wind up at Horsetooth Lake and I'm yelling in my car. It's like July. So I would think I was 80 days sober.
Okay.
I'm yelling in my car and I go, God, if you fucking exist, and this is me yelling at God with the F word, because that's how I roll. I'm like, if you fucking exist, I'm going to jump in this lake and I need this bad energy to come off me, this victim-y shit. Right? So I jump in the lake, I get my hair wet, everything. I don't do that because this is a bitch. Okay. But I did that day. I get my hair wet. I stand up out of the lake. I see the sun going down between these mountain peaks. And it's like I could feel it. I'm getting the goosebumps. I could feel this like bad energy come off me. It was like a baptism, if you will. Because I'm very symbolic and extra. I need extra shit. I can't just say a third step prayer with my mentor and it be done. No, I needed to do some weird shit.
Well, would you say that you kind of need to have that like spiritual awakening almost?
Right.
Yeah, because I'm very much the same way, and my whole life I've been told I'm way too emotional for a guy, but maybe I am, maybe I'm not, but like, it was so much more to me that like, that's why we started the podcast, right? Because it was so much more than just getting sober, and there's so much spirituality and life inside of all of that, So that's cool.
Yes. So I go through that and the next day I get a random check in the mail from AT&T from a year and a half prior of money they owed me that I didn't know about. It was for exactly the deposit I needed for the place I needed to move to. How do you explain that shit? And I was like, okay, God, you're going to take the wheel. I quit playing God. And then there's an inventory step, right? Where you write out all your resentments. I come in, I'm clueless. I'd never been to therapy. I was not self-aware. I was a pain in the ass, a PETA, if you will. Real pain in the ass. I like to name shit. So I do my fourth step. I'm writing out all the things I'm resentful towards, right? And then with the fifth step, you go to your mentor and you admit everything, right? And there was this part that I kept missing. Had a little bit of a resentment against my mom, a little bit meaning a lot.
Yeah.
Because my mom was also victim, right? A ruminator. And she's trying, but she hasn't gotten the same awakenings as me, so I'm giving her some grace. I really hope she doesn't listen. And during my fifth step, my my mentor was like, where's your part with your mom? And I'm like, it's not my fault that she's this, da, 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 da. And she goes, no, you have a part, but what is it? I'm like, I don't know. And then she asked me 3 times and I literally yelled, I'm turning into her. And then I was like, ugh, like right afterwards, I'm turning into my mother. And at that moment, all that obsession to drink, because all I could think about prior to that was alcohol, it was gone. It was like magic, right? I was like, oh my God. And this was on day 88. And I do remember something also said at my first meeting was don't leave before the miracle happens. Right. Give it a good 90 days. And it happened on day 88 for me. So I start getting my shit together. I start getting more self-aware. Chris 3 and I wind up getting back together. I have to move a couple more times because like things would just not work out. I look back and it's what I needed at the time. These places.
Was it your environment? Like just...
It was like roommates that we didn't see eye to eye. Yeah. There was like a couple where smoked a lot of weed. Yeah. They left the doors open. The electricity bill was really high. And then apparently I couldn't sign the lease because I had a bankruptcy. So I had to leave that. And then the second house, it was a situation where the landlord was also my roommate. Okay. And she thought I used the washer and dryer too much. And then she was like, you can go to the laundromat. And I was like, but I like, it's winter. You want me to go to the laundromat? I'm that's like, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah, that's kind of fucked up.
She had her issue. She also like accused me of stealing spice. I don't know. It was a weird
spice.
Yeah, she thought I stole like her spices.
Like, spices.
Like $2 spices.
Are you talking about like?
I was like, the Tony Chachere's is mine. Okay, anything from Louisiana is mine. Don't even go there with me, girl. So, but it's fine. It's what I needed at the time. And there was a lot of fuckery in that house. A lot of like partying. Yeah. You know. So then I go to another meeting and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to move again, right? I'm so like traumatized by moving. I fucking hate moving still to this day. And some guy comes up to me. He's like, there's an extra room at my house. It's $500 a month. Landlord's really cool. So I move in there. So this was, I guess it was like 9 months sober when I lived in that house. And that guy was a chronic relapser. So that was fun. Didn't live there super long because Chris 3, he worked the oil rigs and he was living in Boulder at the time, but wanted us to live together. And I wasn't ready for that, but I tried to make it everybody else's problem. Yeah. I was like, I just signed a lease. I can't get out of the lease. And I have a bankruptcy. They're not going to let me sign a lease. Well, my landlord let me out of the lease. And then, you know, the bankruptcy didn't matter because, you know, Chris 3 had really good income. So I was like, I guess we're moving in. So that was my 4th time moving.
Gosh, that's crazy.
And in between all of that, that cleaning company that my friend had asked was hiring, they did wind up hiring me. This was like November 2018. I was like 6 months sober, you know, and this person gave me a shot. And I was a mess, you know, and I remember during our interview, she had asked me, you know, about recovery and stuff because we knew another mutual friend. She was like, how do you know so-and-so? And I was like, oh, we had some mutual friends, you know, in this community. And she asked if I was a friend of Bill. And I was like, yeah. And she was just like, huh. And she asked me if relapse was part of my story. And I said, no, but I'm like not above it. And she goes, well, it doesn't have to be. And that really stuck with me when she said that. So I worked there it was really cool because I love cleaning and that I became really passionate about cleaning. I love making something better than it was when I found it. I could sleep better at night. It's an active job. I cannot sit at a desk. And like the sales, I couldn't do sales. So that job was a godsend. And that person really helped me a lot, especially in my early days. That's awesome. And mad respect to that person for that. So I was focused.
Does that person know who they are?
Probably if they listen. Anyways, so I was really focused on work and recovery for the next few years. I'm still with Chris 3. He would be gone for 3 weeks at a time, and come back for like a week. So I had the house to myself a lot.
Yeah.
So I really got to know myself a lot, which was really cool. And then we have, the 2020 pandemic. Now, I think I manifested the pandemic.
Okay.
All I wanted was more time and more money. And what better way than a pandemic to happen where I have to file for unemployment? All of a sudden, I'm making $900 a week to do nothing. That was hard because I was like stir crazy. I was like, I just want to clean something,
Yeah.
And then I started.
Let me ask you a question real quick. Was that hard for you to stay sober during that time?
Not really.
No.
Not as much as you would think.
Because, the only reason I ask is in my journey, I learned that like an idle mind is really that's the most dangerous place for me to be.
Well, I was not staying at home.
Okay.
I was outside a lot in 2020.
Yeah.
I took Chris 3 and I, we took this camping road trip, and I couldn't have done that if the pandemic didn't happen because we couldn't work.
Right.
We weren't allowed to work. And, the cleaning company, they were like filed unemployment and we'll pick up whenever we can. So I got to like take a 2-week trip and got to really be in nature. And I feel so close to God when I'm in nature.
Yeah.
Like, some people feel it in church. For me, in the trees, in the mountains, I can just like feel it and I just feel connected. And I really had to lean on my higher power at that moment because everything is, the meetings and stuff, they're on Zoom. It's not the same. I was still going to them, but they weren't like fulfilling me like they were before. But I always stayed connected to that community and still am. Anyways, so pandemic happens. Chris 3 gets kind of laid off and shit gets weird because now he's home full time, right? And we're not compatible. He's not a bad person.
Yeah.
But I don't measure success the way he measures success. He's like, okay, make a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. Own a house, have kids. And I never thought, do I want kids? I never thought about that. Because like, I don't. So I become kind of a nature addict during the pandemic. I get into paddleboarding with my friend Leah. She's one of us, right? And she gets me into paddleboarding and camping and all this stuff. And like me and her, we get pretty close. And then, Chris 3 is like trying to find other jobs and he's like going through it. And I believe like when somebody's going through it, you got to be there for them. But it gets to a point where they got to like humble up and maybe do something that they don't want to do for work. And that was a struggle for him. And then I started struggling dealing with him with that. So then 2021 was weird. In like a month, a lot of weird stuff happened. So I get another premonition, June 4th and 5th. I get just a weird, dark feeling, and I'm like calling Chris 3, like, hey, is everything good on the rig? Like nothing's exploding, all this stuff. I don't know who it's about. And June 4th, I get a phone call from my friend Leah and she's going through it. And something in my gut told me to tell her exactly what she means to me as a friend, how much I value her as a friend. And I don't know, it was like, that's how God talks to me. He's kind of through my gut, right? And these feelings. And I didn't know what the premonition was about. So I tell her, like, you've taught me so much. Like, I'm in love with nature because of you. Like, you bring joy to my life, all these things. And then, like, jokingly, I was like, you good, dude? You're not going to kill yourself, right? And she was like, I'm good. Hangs up. And then 24 hours later, she blew her brains out. Yeah. And that was so fucking hard. Something that I can say about that, though, is I have no regrets on our last conversation. She knew exactly how I felt. Nothing would have stopped her, which really was a good lesson in hindsight for me, because it's like nothing would have stopped Kelly. Nothing would have stopped Topher. If it's their time, it's their fucking time. And that's so hard for me.
That's funny. I lost my best friend, one of my best friends in 2021.
Yeah.
He committed suicide like a week before Christmas.
Yeah.
That's what sparked all of this. But that's tough, man. I'm sorry.
It was pretty hard. And then, what was it? I guess yesterday would be 4 years ago, I got engaged to Chris 3. He proposed and we were in the mountains. It was beautiful. It was the perfect proposal. And something in my gut, and if he listens, I'm sorry, but something in my gut when it happened was like, this isn't it. But I wasn't, it was like I paused And like when you're getting engaged, you don't remember what they say. He could be like, "You're a dumb bitch," and I'd be like,
yeah.
and the ring was perfect. I mean, he did a good job. Like he like designed it. Like he had a sapphire in there instead of a diamond because I'm not like a diamond girly. You know,
Yeah.
he did awesome. He had like comets on the side. It was the most amazing ring ever. And
That's
like
cool.
it was a grand gesture in the American Basin in the San Juans, like grand gesture shit, right? So I say, fuck yes, you know, after pausing for what felt like hours. And it's on video, whatever, but there's a long pause because my gut's like, don't do it, don't do it. But I'm not going to say no. I
Yeah.
love this man. Why would I say no? I would never say no. So I get engaged, and that's like less than a month after Leah passes. And then 8 days later, I'm in another no fault accident where somebody ran a red light. And then I was like in an Audi, if you will, because the Audi, you know, it was like
Oh, it T-boned you or something?
or I T-boned him because he ran the red light.
Okay.
So that really messed me up. My car was totaled. I was doing also side cleans as well on top of working for this cleaning company. That was kind of before Leah passed. I should have mentioned that earlier. This guy, Lance Wolf, he's no longer with us, but he kind of gave me the idea about starting a company. He had an emergency situation where he was renovating a house and he needed somebody to clean the renovation. He was like, Tia. And I was like, okay. So I used Chris 3's vacuum, and he had a little shop vac, and I got some supplies and I went and I helped him. And Lance was like, this is amazing. And I was like, hey, thanks, man. So then Lance starts talking to other people, and he's like, hire Tia. And I'm like, hey, man, I work for a company. You could hire the company, you know, because I don't want to seem like I'm out of line here. And then I all of a sudden start getting phone calls from next door. And I'm like, how are you getting I work for somebody else. Like, no. And then I was like scared that like the cleaning company was going to be mad at me. So I was like, hey, I'm getting these next door calls, but I'm not putting my number out there. And then I asked a lady that called me, I go, who posted my number? And she said, the username is Lance Wolf. So Lance Wolf, he ties in later in my story. He's the one that gave me the idea. So I was doing like some side cleans on the weekends and stuff. So after the accident, I don't know what to do, right? I don't have money. I have to use my boss's car to get to work, which that didn't feel good. I don't like depending on people for shit because I was raised to not do that. So I was not happy about that. And my dad was like, you need an attorney. And I was like, I don't want to be dramatic. Like, I wasn't super hurt, you know, like it was an accident. And my dad was like, just see if an attorney will take it. Well, Lance is married to Leah Wolf, who is an attorney. And I called her and she goes, oh, girl, we got a case. And I was like, oh, okay. So she's dealing with the insurance companies. That is a shit show.
Yeah.
I mean, that, you want to give me a reason to drink, have that.
Dude,
you know?
I hear you on that.
I cannot. But
no, my wife does all that stuff because I'm like, I'll kill myself.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
She dealt with all of that. Right. And then, you know, I'm like, let me know what this will cost. You know, if we get a settlement and like, I'll pay you whatever. And she was like, cool. So she's working through that. I finally get a car late. Like it was during the pandemic. There were no chips available. I bought my car before it was on the lot. It was a whole thing. I also, Chris 3 co-signed that car, which I did not want.
Yeah.
But this is another thing where I'm like not fully owning my shit, where I was like, I get to the car dealership, everything's signed. I just got to sign too. So then now my car is tied to my fiance at the time. And I knew we were going to get married, or I thought we were going to get married, but I still didn't like that because it felt like I was losing my independence. And that caused some big resentments where I was just like, I don't like the fact that you're tied to my car. Like, you know, if we get in a fight, you know, whatever. But Captain Savaho, you know, he had the good credit. And I was like, I'll pay the extra $30, but he wasn't having it. And my dad was like, you're going to get married. Just let him co-sign your shit. Let him be a man. I was like, fine. You know, so he co-signs a car. And then something really big happens in the end of 2021. So Chris 2 killed himself on my birthday, my 32nd birthday, December 4th, 2021. I found out the day after my birthday doing a side clean. I get the phone call and I am at a loss for words. Now, this one, I did not have a premonition because it was my birthday when he did it. And I was so like, it's my birthday. Because typical Sagittarius, like, it's my birthday. So, like, whatever feelings would have come through, I was not connected. Right. And he did it in front of our dog. It was so, you think of like your mid 20s when you're in love. And then you never think that that's going to be their fate. And it had to do with alcoholism and depression. And that tore me up because he and I, we did make our amends towards each other after that breakup. And we were civil. And he lived in
still
Denver.
communicating?
Like he responded to one of my Instagram stories, oddly enough, that week. It was like this weird truck with like, there was like a bear on it, like a metal carved bear. And I was like, Final Destination shit. And he had responded to it that same week. So it was very weird. That tore me up. And even though we weren't like close anymore, like I loved that man when we were together. And I didn't want anything bad to happen to him. And like I tried to like get him to sober up. And he was just like, I'm going to try ketamine therapy. He like tried everything but sobering up. And he could have. And I also found out when I went to reach out to Matt, who lived in that corporate housing with us. His wife and I were still friends on Facebook. And I was like, hey, girl, I just got to tell you, like, Chris Dew, he passed away. And she goes, Matt passed away from alcoholism, too. So they're both dead.
Jesus Christ, man. Did he do the same thing?
No, I think he drank himself to death. Matt did. Yeah, Matt was very far gone. There's like a picture of me with both of them, on my Instagram somewhere, and it just gives me the heebie-jeebies, because like I'm so glad I found a way out.
Yeah, for real.
So I had really struggled with the whole fact that he did it on my birthday, right? And I do weird stuff when I'm grieving. I will seek out mediums, whatever. I do weird stuff, and like some people think that's demon work, but a lady really did help me through that, where it came through that he was aware of the date.
That's what I was that's kind of where my brain went.
Right.
Is like, did he do that intentionally on your birthday?
Well, he was aware of the date, but then she said the next day wasn't any better. And I was like, the fuck do you mean? He could have done it the next day. And then I thought about it, and I was like, his sister's birthday is the day after mine. Right. And that's how I knew, okay, she has something. She is hearing something. So that really helped clear the air. And then she talked about a suicide demon and shit and all that he was going through, and he was suffering and he just had to get out. So, I try to not carry that, because it was like, why on my birthday, dude?
Yeah, I know. That's crazy.
Like, so rude.
Let me ask you a question. Was you said the media was helpful, and obviously you're a spiritual person. Like, do you think that those things are tied together?
I think with certain ones, yes. There's a lot of fraud out there. This lady is faith-based. Okay. She's very animated, and she's very God-centered. She's just like, God is screaming at you. She also was talking to me about how I was meant for more than what I was doing. I think she knew about me starting my business, because I didn't know at the time. Yep. This was like the beginning of 2022. So Leah Wolf comes back with a settlement, and it's $6,000. And I was like, oh my God, well, what do I owe you? And she goes, pro bono.
Shit.
And I'm like, oh my God, And it's like, you have Lance Wolf over here helping me, like giving me ideas about starting my own company, giving me the confidence. You have Leah Wolf getting me this settlement, not making me pay her. And I know she dealt with some shit with that claim, but she was like, no, we're good. Amazing, right?
It's crazy.
And that put some money in my bank account, right? And it gave me, I have this crazy idea, like maybe it is time to go out on my own. And I struggled with that because I'm very into loyalty. Like I'm a very like, I have abandonment wounds. I don't want to trigger anybody else's abandonment wounds. And then there was also an RV dealership. They needed a cleaner, right? I hate cleaning RVs, but it was enough work for me to comfortably leave the cleaning company. So that was a hard conversation. And I owe a lot to that cleaning company. They've done a lot for me, and I've learned a lot. But it was time for me to like build my own thing, because there was no like opportunity for advancement really. And that's fine. But so I decided March 2022, create my own LLC. It's called Tenacious Deep Cleaning. and I'm
I
a
love that
solo
name.
cleaner. Thank
It's
you.
awesome.
It's a tribute. And yeah, it was scary. You know, I don't have a platform. I don't advertise. Like, I didn't know how it was going to go. You know, I was like, I might be doing something dumb here, but something in my gut was like, it's time, girl.
Yeah.
You know, between like all these random calls I'm getting, I didn't ask for any of that. So, you know, I kind of started with like the RVs, right?
Do you feel like that was kind of a God thing, even though Lance kind of teed you up?
Yeah.
Like, for sure, right? Like, those are, those are just signs, you know, that are like, hey, you need to move into this direction.
Exactly. Oh, what was it? So I'm engaged for almost a year and my gut's screaming again, you know, and I already started my little cleaning company. And then my gut's like, this isn't right. This isn't right with Chris 3. And stuff starts getting nasty. And I think we both were resentful towards each other because it was not the match. And it's not that he's a bad person or that I'm a bad person. We were just not for each other. So it got nasty one night. One of my clients had offered me his basement in case shit hit the fan because he could tell something was off. And there was a night where I was not a good version of myself. Like, I was pulling my hair out, crying, yelling, throwing shit. That is not who I've ever wanted to be. And this is in sobriety, right? I'm sober I have no excuse. And I just packed up the cat and I said, I'm leaving. And I left my apartment that I lived in with Chris 3 and I stayed in a basement of a house full of people that were partaking in things that I don't partake in anymore.
Yeah.
But that's what I needed to do because it wasn't right. And that it was so hard because I wanted to marry this man, you know, and there was a lot of good in that relationship. But at the end, I think he and I both just knew this was not it.
Well, and that's like your true colors start coming out, you know? And yeah, I
didn't like who I was when I was with him. And he didn't like me either. I mean, he wanted to do 14ers and all this shit. I'm not good at that. Like, he needs somebody that's like badass that can hike 14ers and can cook well because I don't cook well.
Like that, and none of
I'm
that.
like, here's a rotisserie chicken and call it a day.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and so that was hard. So I blew up my life at 4 years sober, or 4 or 5 years sober. Just blew it up. Like, quit my job, leave my fiance, don't know where I'm headed, what I'm doing. And I decide I need to do some work. So I get deeper than just the 12 steps. 12 steps got me through for a long time, but I needed to get deeper. So I start going to therapy and I try EMDR. The EMDR originally, per Lance Wolf, he's the one that recommended it.
Yeah.
Shout out Lance. He recommended EMDR for the car accident because I would tense up at lights. Like, the light was green and I'd be like, I don't know, I don't trust anybody. And that's dangerous. So I started going for that. And then I start opening up things that happen with Chris 1 and Chris 2. And then with Chris 3. And then I start opening up about childhood and I start working through some shit that I carried into adulthood. These abandonment wounds and like this codependency, not necessarily on romantic partners. I learned after Chris 2 to have a life outside of my romantic relationships, thank God. But I was codependent on friends, and it was really bad. There was something that I did shortly before I left my ex-fiance. I did a cringy thing. I had a friend that I had a falling out with that I was feeling some type of way about. And when I feel some type of, I did a cringy thing to a former friend where we had a falling out. I was feeling a particular way. And when I'm feeling resentful, instead of being like, fuck that person, I like to do something nice for somebody anonymously. So I did this cringy thing, and I'm not going to go into details of what it was. And I told my mentor about it. And I said, you know, I feel a lot better after doing this kind thing, and they don't even know it's from me. And my mentor was like, what the fuck is that? Girl, that's codependent as fuck.
Seriously?
So we start reading Codependent No More, which is kind of what initiated me leaving that engagement. And my mentor actually left her husband within months of me leaving my ex-fiance because of that book.
Really?
So a real God shot there.
Yeah.
A great book, Codependent No More. It taught me so much.
Okay.
I still work through that because I do have abandonment wounds. I never want to leave anybody and be like, bad vibes. I always want to like, I did something kind. They don't need to know it's from me and I can move on with my life. That's just, and I still kind of struggle with that. I'm trying to like stop being so fucking feely.
So codependency, like you just kind of have this like you just care about what people think of you.
I just want to leave everything on the best note that I can because they could literally die in a freak accident. or I could die in a freak accident, and I don't want to have any regrets.
Well, and it's not like you haven't had a lot of experiences with that.
Exactly.
So,
which is where EMDR's also helped with that.
That makes a lot of sense.
You know, I've abandonment more of this person could die.
Right.
And I've always thought I'm going to be taken out by a Mack truck any second now. And it's like the fact that I'm still here is kind of crazy.
I feel the same way sometimes.
So after I leave Chris 3, I decide what does healthy look to me? Like, what does that look like? Because I didn't grow up with it. I grew up in like a chaotic household where my dad was drinking too much. My mom hated my dad, and then, like, they hated each other. And I just didn't know what healthy was. How am I going to be in a healthy relationship if I don't know? So I was celibate for 14 months, and I was like living in the basement for about 5 months. And then there was a lot of like drinking going on in that house and other things. And I was like, time to go. So I meet somebody else that's going to these meetings that I thought was sober, and I move in with her. She was not sober, and that was really hard. Still like going to therapy, all this stuff. I'm in a real healing era, living amongst chaos, and that was really hard. And things didn't really get stable for me. Like, the outside stuff didn't get stable until the beginning of 2024, where I'm like deep into therapy. I've been in therapy for a year. I'm finally dipping my toes in the dating pool and stuff like that. And, I was very crazy with the dating. Like, how do you overcome adversity? I would ask these hard-hitting questions, and it would scare a lot of guys off. And I'm like, good, bye, good riddance. Like, it's a dating pool. If you know, it's trash. And I was like, I wasn't necessarily dating to marry, but I found my peace. I'm not going to let somebody come in and fuck my shit up. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to get to where I'm throwing stuff again, because that's not who I want to be. And that's not who God wants me to be. Right. So 2024, I finally move out of that house where she was still drinking, and I move in with another friend that I met at these meetings. And that house was very peaceful and calm. I loved his dog. His dog was great. Right. I felt peaceful. I start going to the gym, right? I start intentionally dating. Then I was kind of trying to be a villain with it, actually, because I was like, I don't need nobody, but this is fun. It's January, right? I'm serial dating. I went on like 8 dates in 1 week. I would like sit at Starbucks, meet him, drive around the block, meet another guy at Starbucks. I mean, I was like, it's a numbers game. I'm a date like this. Didn't need to sleep with him. Just like I was meeting a lot of guys, whatever. And then I meet this angel man. We're going to call him Green Flags. I met him January 24th, 2024. And this one was different. On our first date, I was very like, my recovery life comes first. Right. So I have recovery life, and then I have like my business, and then like my friends, and then you're down here. Like, I was kind of an asshole. And he was like, cool. I was like, okay.
Like, seriously?
I was like, you're never going to be my whole world. You can't control me. I don't do power dynamics. And he's like, awesome. And I'm like, what?
Who is this guy?
Right. And he was just a walking green flag. And he loved the hard hitting questions. Like, cut the bullshit. I don't care about the weather. How do you overcome adversity? How do you get out of the shower? That's important. Are you going to get water all over the floor? Because I don't fuck with that, So then, like, I'm a pretty secure, attached person, but I was like, well, I don't know if I'm in a place to commit. So I was telling him, you should see other people, don't put all your eggs in my basket. And he goes, that's fine. I know what I want. You do whatever you want to do, though. And I was like, sir, and then it's just, it was like, I think a couple weeks later, I was sitting on his couch and I pull up Hinge and I delete the app right in front of him. And then he goes, hell yeah, grabs his phone, deletes Hinge. I mean, what more natural way to like define the relationship?
Yeah, right.
And what I love about him is he makes me better, right? And he's a normal person. I've never seen him drink. He can, but he doesn't. I mean, he could, but he's like, I don't like the way it makes me feel, which I'm like, are you okay?
Yeah, right.
I don't understand. I don't relate to that. But one more thing, besides me like going on a tangent about green flags, because he's lovely.
Is that your boyfriend?
Yes.
Okay.
Still is. We live together now. It's great.
Good for you.
It's very healthy. It's first healthy relationship. It took so much work to get here.
Yeah.
Shortly after I met Green Flags, Lance Wolf passes away, like a heart attack, I think a widowmaker. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like the person that help me like get motivated to start my company. And Leah Wolf hits me up and she says, I need help dealing with our house. And I'm like, I got you for free. So I got to pay it forward by cleaning that house, which was a lot. And how I knew that Green Flags was the one, it was a very chaotic situation. There were people fighting over China in that house, all this stuff. And I'm just trying to clean it so they can sell it. Right. And Green Flags offers to help. Like, he doesn't have to do that. He's a data engineer. He makes like a lot of money, but he like shows up and he like cleans up the rooms. And it's like the moment I saw him, all the anxiety I had of China and everybody fighting went away. And that's when I kind of knew. I was like, this guy, I think, is my person.
Yeah.
And I still feel like that today. He just makes me calmer. And he's very supportive of my recovery and doesn't try to like nitpick. He just lets me do my thing. And being a part of the recovery community, it's been important.
Yeah.
Because what the fuck is the point of sobering up if you're not going to work on yourself, help other alcoholics?
Yeah.
The fuck is the point? You know? And then my business, these word of mouth people, like it took about a year of being in business where, you know, I would take on a client, right? And then they would tell their neighbors. And then like I had a Buddhist nun. We had great conversations about spirituality. So like I'm not anti-religion per se, but
Yeah.
my experience with God is very like, I take a little bit from here, I take a little bit from there. I hear something good from, you know, it could be a Buddhist, it could be a Christian, it could be whatever,
Yeah.
you know, and I feel like as long as I'm doing the next right thing, you know, and letting God guide me by staying connected and not letting myself get too wound up, it's always led me down a good path. And like the customers come to me, the
Yeah.
clients, they all come. I've never advertised.
Dude, and that's just because I mean, I've been sitting in here with you for 2 hours.
Sorry it's so long, guys.
No, dude, you're a very magnetic person. Like, I can feel it already, you know, just in the short time that I've known you. And it's funny, like, if you think about our 6 pillars, like, you literally, we didn't associate the pillars to, like, your story, but they're all 6 there, all 6 of them. And they're so obvious. You know, and I don't know, man, like I've never met a female that I feel like is more like me than like anybody ever. Like I identify with your past, like maybe not the premonition stuff, but like the pain, you know, the struggle. I mean, through my 20s, dude, it was the same thing. I was drinking all through my 20s and I got married, still in active alcoholism and all of that stuff. And, you know, it's like God worked his magic in my life in a very different way through my wife. You know, I had really honestly no idea who I married when I married her. I just knew that like, hey, I want kids. I want this. This is what I want in my life. I was ready to get married. But it's, and I don't want to say anything like to sound bad because like, but dude, I mean, we were married for 7 years before, well, 6 years before I started the journey. And she never fucking left.
Right.
Not one time, dude. Like it was the craziest thing. So I don't know. There's just so many things in your story that I can relate to personally. You know, and if we go through the pillars, which I suck at this, I never fucking got them down. I'm the one that came up with them and I don't even have them written down. But vulnerability, right? That's the number one thing. And that's your story's riddled with it, you know, of just being willing to talk about what's going on in your heart and, you know, those kinds of things. And personal accountability, you know, talk about an insane amount of personal accountability. You're living sober in environments that are so not conducive with that lifestyle, you know, but all the while staying sober and staying true to yourself and breaking up with a fiance, dude. Like,
so hard.
I can't even imagine that.
It was
Like,
so hard. Love's not enough.
yeah,
That's what and that's
at
I
times
love
you're right.
him, but it was not enough.
You're right. You know, and I think my wife and I are learning this in our marriage right now, right? Like, I haven't been sober that long. And so I'm still working through a lot of things. And I'm actually starting therapy and psychiatry up again because I feel like I've been going downhill. And my desire to drink lately has been way up here, you know, and I haven't struggled with that since I got sober, you know, and so there's that personal accountability piece, right? And it's all over in your story. I'm trying to think. Do you have them written down?
I think I have your message. What up?
So it's vulnerability, personal accountability, community,
Faith, community,
faith,
service.
community service, and self-discipline. So faith, that's obviously a no-brainer. That's everywhere. The one thing I like to ask people though, like on the faith thing, because I mean, we've had people in here that, and whatever keeps you away from your addiction, like I am not here to drive Christianity or any certain kind of thing, but like, I mean, talk a little bit, like if you weren't such a faithful person, do you feel like this would have been harder? Or do you feel like you would be sitting here today? Because I sure should.
Right. I mean, it's all these weird coincidences, right? And it's like, I don't think there's any such thing as coincidences. You know, you and I actually have a mutual friend. I don't know if you know, but I know that I used to drink with that I believe is sober now.
Okay.
And she told me about you. And then like, you know, I told Morgan nothing bad.
Okay.
And I told Morgan, you know, I was like, oh, I heard your story because it was my sobriety month.
Yeah.
Right. And when it's my sobriety month, I'm like, I don't want to feel squirrely. So I listen to more speaker stuff, you know, go to more meetings and stuff. I run into Morgan and I was like, oh, I heard your story. And he was like, you should listen to Irene's story, you know? And then he was like, wait a minute. What about your story?
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
was like, well, I'm kind of a high bottom. I never had to get in trouble, you know?
But at the same time, it was riddled. I mean, it was obviously affecting your life, you know, and that's the thing. Like, there is a person that came on this podcast. I'll tell you who it is afterwards, but we get to choose what rock bottom looks like.
Right.
You know, and if I look at your story, there's so many times that it should have kept going, you know, but you chose not to.
I don't have to keep digging.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. And that's like, I don't know, for me too, like I really struggle with self-discipline. Like it's something that I'm working on right now. That's actually why I put that in our pillars, because personally I am fucking horrible at it.
Right.
You know, but if I look back on my life, I've never really had to be personally accountable. You know, I got bailed out of trouble. I was talking to my dad about this the other night, and so I feel like I can say this without offending him, but like they just bailed us out.
Right.
You know, and
I've seen more alcoholics die because of that.
exactly,
than
man.
anything
Like, and
else.
it's crazy. Yeah, just like I don't know, man. The self-discipline piece of it, like I haven't had that much in my life, right? Like I remember when we were probably 17, and we went out tipping over a bunch of porta potties, because we're dumb. Get arrested because somebody said we're driving over with our car.
Mhm.
I'm with three of my buddies. Sorry, I just got totally out of breath. Spider running up the stairs. Dude, I'm the only one out of all four of us that no trouble. My dad told the cops, bring him home, you know, and that was it. They never said a fucking word to me. You know, the rest of my friends got grounded for the summer and all this stuff. And, you know, and then I got DUIs and fights. You know, I remember facing felony assault charges. Nothing ever happened.
Well, you don't have to have a record to get right.
Correct. Exactly.
Because maybe what helped me was I didn't have anybody to come bail me out. I didn't know what it would look like if I got a Dewey and was in jail. My family's not here.
Right.
I don't know if they can bail me out from Florida. I wasn't trying to find out.
Yeah.
And that really helped keep me sober before I did the work. So I was like, fuck, if I get in trouble, I can't last in jail. I'm too sensitive for
Yeah.
jail, you know?
I'm like, dude, I can't go to jail. Look at this face.
No,
I'd be
like,
grabbing onto
I'm
people's
too
pockets on day
sensitive.
one.
And, you know, people hurt my feelings, you know? That fear of like, nobody's going to come save you, which I think comes back to my mom being like, you got to take care of you kind of shit.
Yeah.
And that not having, I guess, the privilege, you know, financial privilege
Right.
has really helped.
Yeah. And we did, you know, my parents had been pretty successful most of their life,
Right.
but his parents weren't, you know, and it's like, I look at that trajectory and it's like, I can't blame you for what you did. All you did was try to give us a good life.
Right.
You know, I'm the one that fucking spun this into this psychotic behavior. Yeah. So that one, so faith, you know, community, obviously, with the super secret coffee meetings, huge community inside of that, you know, and you sought it out and you continue to seek it out.
Oh, and they're unhinged. We are unhinged.
100%, dude.
Why do you think I don't date in
100
that community?
Dude,
Because
that's-
I'm crazy enough. We're
Yeah.
not adding no more crazy to this.
I agree. And dude, honestly, like, because you didn't have the legal troubles and all those same, like, you could go way farther down
Yeah.
into that barrel.
Yeah, but we know how that story ends.
Exactly.
It's not going to end well.
Exactly.
It's like, and the person that I lived with in their drunken stupor, I said, how do you think this is going to end? But it was one of those, she was getting bailed out. Like, that's a huge piece.
Dude,
You
and
know?
we saw it all over. Like, a lot of the people that I grew up with, same kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, whether they just didn't get in legal trouble or their parents were bailing them out or whatever it was, you know, like, it was just this constant reset. Like, I should have gotten arrested for this and I didn't. So what does that do to your mentality? You know, so service, you know, you said it 1,000 times throughout this podcast. Like, the whole point of getting sober is to get sober so that you can help other people.
Right.
You know, and let me ask you a question in that. Do you feel like that I feel like it's kind of like a superfood in sobriety, you know, where it's like, if you really want to stay connected to your sobriety, go start doing stuff for other people,
Yeah.
you know, and
Well, it
that's
keeps me humble.
exactly.
Like, don't anybody compare your year 1 to my year 7, because like I was a mess. And like when I see that, it reminds me where I came from to get to where I'm at. And I don't have a lot. I don't own a house. I make a teacher's salary doing what I do, but I'm so content. Like,
Dude, that's
it's simple. It's just so simple.
you know what? Actually, now that you just said that, that just sparked a whole thought. Like, what if we were to add that as a pillar? Because that, I feel like, is so true.
Contentment.
Contentment.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like,
It's calm.
it is. And my wife and I have had to really go through this practice of like, you know, I'll just straight up say it. Like, we're $150,000+ in debt.
Right.
And that is an extremely humbling experience, you know, to look. And I did it all while I was fucked up. You know, I just drank and she didn't really understand how credit worked and how it worked against you. And, you know, I did, but I wasn't there to keep it in check. And, you know, and so we ended up in the boat that we're in, you know, and it's very humbling. And so we've had to learn to be content, right? Like, we were travelers, we were spenders, you know, we both come from successful families. We both had everything that we could ever want our entire life.
Right.
You know, like all of that. And it created this situation, you know, at 40 fucking years old,
Right.
you know, I'm learning stuff that I should have learned when I was 19 years old. So yeah, being content. I totally agree, man. Like, that is
I don't have a
super
lot.
important.
But I don't need a lot.
And that's so true. Like,
I love my relationships, like outside of my romantic relationship, you know. I try to, my family, you know, they're in Florida, but I try to like keep up with them and like try to meet them where they're at.
Yeah.
Because I'm the only one in my immediate family that decided to put the bottle down.
Really?
Right. My grandfather, he was sober a hot minute before he passed away, my dad's dad. So he was in the coffee club. It actually says Easy Does It on his gravestone.
oh, nice.
Yeah. But everybody else still drinks. And I just try to like, it's okay,
Yeah.
you know, because like maybe for them it won't ruin their life. But I know for me, if I go back out there, like what good is going to come from that?
100%. Exactly. And that's like, yeah, I agree. And I like my life now so much more than I ever did.
Yeah.
Back then, you know, there was a lot of highs, but the lows were just
The
so
yo-yo.
low, dude. Like, exactly.
Like it's just calm.
Yes.
And
It's
like
just,
my relationship,
Yeah.
calm, no drama, which was weird. It was weird.
It is.
And I'm still like, when's that shoe going to drop? It's been 18 months. If he was like shady, I think I would know.
Do you ever get to a point where you find yourself starting shit?
I used to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Create chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this is something I've recently had to admit to my wife, because I did it yesterday. Well, not totally. In my mind, I did it. In the environment, like, I felt like I'd said what I needed to say.
Mhm.
I was kind of an asshole about it, but I don't know, dude. Like, there's times that I feel like you get those dopamine hits from it, you know? And so I find myself like trying to pick a fight or trying to get into an argument with somebody, or I'm like, no, I'm going to die on this hill, you know? And it's like, dude, we're talking about like what pair of shoes you're going to buy, you know? And it's like, you're like, no, like I have a differing opinion and like I'm picking a fight with you because you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like that kind of person. And it's like, and I've realized like it's that hit,
I have a fix for that. That's
Yeah.
been working great.
What is it?
Just go to the coffee club. It's the greatest show on earth. And trash TV helps.
So after this, I'll ask, but I want to know where you go because I didn't necessarily like the one I went to. I don't know. It was a bunch of like,
there's some drama. There's
Yeah.
some personalities.
well, it's just a bunch of old dudes that were like, stop being a bitch. And I'm like, how is that helpful? And
I'm
they're
crawling
like,
out of my skin.
yeah. And it
that's
was
what you
like,
wanna
anytime
say?
they talked about emotion or this or that, or it was just like, fuck that, like
That's for bitches.
you're a pussy, and I'm like, cool.
Was it a men's meeting?
Yes.
I've heard of those. Yeah.
It's just, but there was some great things said, and I don't know, like I consider myself fairly intelligent, and I've fired therapists and counselors and things like that because I just run circles around them,
Right.
and so that it's like I'm not gaining anything in there like I wasn't at the time.
I mean, if you want some entertainment, get a bunch of alcoholics together trying to get shit done. I mean, I will just sit there and just watch. For like a business meeting, I got popcorn. I'm like, let's fucking go. Like, and I just watch them bicker and I'm just like, ha,
enjoy
and I'll come home and green flags will be like, what happened today? He loves hearing about it. It's so funny.
That's
and like,
awesome.
he doesn't have like a face to any names,
Yeah,
and he'll just be like, what did this person do this time? And it's just, giggly about it.
that's hilarious.
And it's I love I stay connected. It just, and like, it's not my whole personality.
Right.
Like, there's a lot more to me than being a part of this club.
Yeah.
My whole personality right now is being outside. Whenever I feel connected to God, right? Like, God definitely is huge in that. But like the community and the like helping other people, watching them grow, watching the fucking lights come on in
Yes.
somebody else's eyes is like the bright spot of my life.
Or choosing themselves over,
Fuck yes.
and that's the thing that I love the most is just watching people choose themselves,
Mhm.
instead of this addiction and and then walking into that light, and being able to hold their hand while they do that. And
I took pride in that when I left that engagement. I was like, I chose myself. There was no other man. It was, nope. Like, I want to be better and I won't be better in this situation. And I'm like prideful about that.
that's
I'm like,
good. I mean,
I
you
chose
could
me,
be.
at 32 years old at the time,
And I
that
would
was
say for
crazy.
people that have similar personalities like ours, like I'm very much a people pleaser.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that. Like there's been a lot of times that I've caved to my wife just simply because I don't want to get in an argument. I don't want to deal with it, whatever. Or it's just, I don't want to explain it, and it's just like, I've been not true to myself in a lot of areas of my life, and now that's something like sobriety, I think, has given me back. But so one thing that we always do at the end of every episode is we ask you, what is your like biggest piece of wisdom that you would leave for the listener? If they took anything away from this.
It doesn't matter how you get there. It doesn't matter which recovery program, as long as you never stop growing and always work on yourself to be a better person. That could be Dharma recovery, that could be Wellbright, whatever, or therapy. As long as you're working on yourself and there for other people, you're going to be fine. And no matter what happens in your life, I don't give a fuck what it is. A drink will not make it better, ever. Like, you tell me a scenario where a drink will make it better.
Dude, that was a huge eye-opening experience for me. Like, we did this in rehab where they're like, just write out all the benefits of alcohol.
Right.
Just write them down.
Pros and cons list. That's what I have them do.
And that's what I was like, I was kind of an awkward young guy and wasn't super great at talking to women. And that was the only positive,
right.
Was like, it kind of brought me out of my shell a little bit.
I'm like, what kind of women are you attracting?
Exactly. Obviously, none of them are in my life today.
I'm a trash bag. I'm going to attract another trash bag.
Exactly. So, yeah, none of them are in my life today. And, dude, if you would have met, I always tell my wife this. I'm like, dude, if you'd have met me when I was 22, you'd have ran the other way.
Right. That's what I tell green flags. I'm like, man, I'm glad I met you after my healing era.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Tia, I just want to say thank you. Your story is absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
And your resiliency and just everything. Like, I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
In your life. And thank you so much for taking time to do this.
Woo, woo.
And I'm sorry for all the hiccups. Usually it's not this discombobulated, but you know what? That's why we edit it.
It's my first podcast. I don't know. I don't know
So
how it's supposed to go.
we don't really.
Yeah.
That's what I like about this. It's
I
like
still don't know how to be a business owner, but
Hey.
3 years strong.
you're doing it. Wow. Thank you so much. And thank you to our listeners. We really appreciate you guys. As Aaron said in the beginning of this, please, share, comment, like all that stuff. It helps get the message out. And yeah, we love you guys and we'll see you soon.